All right, thank you everyone for your patience. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Kevin, let me know when you're recording. It's recording? Thank you. We will start with our Pledge of Allegiance, Ms. Murphy, and the Statement of Acknowledgement in honor of Indigenous and diverse communities.
And now the statement of acknowledgement in honor of indigenous and diverse communities. We begin this meeting with acknowledgement of and honor for the many legacies that have impacted our community, particularly those buried over time. Acknowledging truth is critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. Cheltenham Township stands within the Lenape-Honik, the ancestral homeland of the Lenni Lenape civilization. Their people were, and still are, caretakers of this land and its rivers, and their legacy continues. We pay respect to their elders past and present. Our community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes in the hope of a better life. And some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that brings us together. As a school district committed to fostering intellectual curiosity and discourse in service of social justice, join us in uncovering such truths.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Ms. Harding will conduct a roll call.
Thank you. Ms. Blitzstein,
Present.
Mr. Burdell-Williams,
Present.
Mr. Epps,
Mr.
Ms.
Epps is not here.
Ms. Henry,
Present.
Ms. Lohman,
Here.
Ms. Mulhern,
Here.
Ms. Murphy,
Present.
Mr. Schultz,
Present.
and Dr. Whiting.
Present.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
All right. We'll move to public comments on agenda items. We have anyone present in the auditorium. You can come to the podium, announce your name and where you reside in the community. No one online? All right. We will move to the solicitor's report. Mr. Diazio.
Thank you. The board met in executive session tonight prior to the public meeting to discuss a number of matters of tax assessment appeal litigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diazio. Next, we will have the student council report.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Zuri. The Cheltenham Student Council met on Wednesday, September 18th. I will now read out the updates. The Charity Committee is conducting a food drive to donate to the Willow Grove Baptist Church Food Pantry. We successfully executed both our homecoming game and homecoming dance, which took place on September 27th and 28th. Our Civics and Community Engagement Committee has organized voter registration every Tuesday and Friday, starting February the 20th. Not February, Friday the 20th. Our class of 2027 is starting a double good fundraiser on Thursday, the 19th. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Dr. Scriven will provide the superintendent's report.
Mrs. Paul, could you turn that mic off, please?
So good evening. Today, one of the agenda items is the recommendation for superintendent goals for 24-25 school year. I want to take an opportunity, which for me is an upgrade, to share those goals publicly. They will be a part of board docs. They will go on the website. I ask in advance for you guys to bear with me because it's pretty robust, and I want to make sure that I unpack this and that it is memorialized in terms of what is being taken into consideration as our work. During our last full cabinet meeting, another upgrade was for me to actually share my goals with the superintendent's full cabinet, have them envision where they see themselves within that work, and then give feedback in terms of are they aligned and do the goals actually make sense. So there have been a vetting process prior to bringing goals to you as a board for your consideration. It is not something that has been done in isolation. There's also a committee of board of directors, a committee of 3, which also helps to develop, unpack, and give feedback on those goals prior to being presented to the full board. So if you could be so kind as to, I believe we're already there, goal number 1. Which is around operations and financial management. And I actually have some notes that you guys will not be able to see, but I'm going to make those public as well, because what that will do is actually show the intentionality around the goals so that they are easily understood. And I think it also will give a level of transparency ahead of time in terms of what the work actually looks like. So under this goal, it's a focus for me to work collaboratively with my business director and also my director for facilities. There are several strategies. As you guys know, we've just recently completed a feasibility study. We are looking at moving forward with the recommended pathway number 2, where we are looking at changing the current model and moving our 5th grade, or I should say keeping 5th grade in the current K through 4, making that a K through 5 model. And then our 6th grade eventually would go to our middle school, which is currently 7-8, and make that a 6, 7, and 8 model. This process, it would behoove anyone from the community to make sure that they attend our November finance and facilities meeting, where this is all going to be unpacked in more detail, in addition to timeline and additional information around the stadium project, which is happening at the high school. We are trying to make sure that we are meeting the programmatic needs of all students. So equity is a major piece of this, and we're trying to do these critical improvements without disrupting our daily academic program. So attempting to be extremely attentional. I do appreciate the fact that we have involved multiple stakeholders in this process. So stakeholder voice, community voice through a survey which was issued kind of reaffirmed the potential direction that we were considering. Another major piece is going to be around a capital improvement plan. We are going to be very diligent with using some of the resources that we have in place that help us do projections and foresee when certain items are going to be at end of life. I want to make that part of our monthly report under facilities, where we're not just talking about potential projects, but I'm giving you a snapshot of work orders. I'm giving you a snapshot of how things are being completed. I'm giving you a snapshot of costs which are associated around either maintenance or the potential capital improvement, and attempting to align that to the pillars within the strategic plan. Also, I think it's so important, and we just came back from a conference up in the Poconos, PSBA, where we were afforded opportunities to sit on various workshops. One thing that I recognize here as a district, which we are going to focus on, and we have started that work, is memorializing our work through standard operating procedures. I, as superintendent, if anything were to happen, I don't want my predecessor stepping into a situation where there's not a blueprint or a playbook for what the day-to-day work of the superintendent and the district, this central office, looks like. So I'm working with Mr. Swigert and the members of our cabinet on both sides to really memorialize what our day-to-day operations should look like under each position, calendar-based, where you can see by month what are the tasks and what are the duties that are associated with different positions which fall within our organizational chart. I think that is going to go a long way with really giving us a playbook, which we will revisit, but it will make us more efficient and more effective as what we do. You can go to goal 2, please, which is student academic growth and achievement. We have a couple strategies that are very specific under this goal. One is just engaging leadership teams. We're doing that, and that's led by our assistant superintendent, Mrs. Savage. She just had a very informative CIPD meeting just today. We have bi-weekly meetings with each of our principals. We have meetings with our administrative team holistically, where we are calibrating, where we are reviewing what our work looks like. And it really affords us an opportunity to something that I have been speaking to over and over again, is breaking us out of silos. And it's affording us to really look collaboratively, not in isolation, of what systems and structures need to be put in place when we talk about equity, where there's a consistent experience that our students are receiving, regardless of which schoolhouse they may be attending. That is very important, that even though our schools are unique, there are commonalities with respect to best practices that we should be seeing throughout the district as a whole. One thing that I'm really working on, and the board is a part of this as long as my cabinet team, is really defining what are our data metrics. And we're not trying to recreate the wheel. We have our future ready indicators, which give us a very clear depiction of where we should be as we move through 2031. But more so than that, we are also trying to make sure that we are collecting data on the whole child, and not just data on outcomes based on standardized assessments or keystones or what have you. I'm not going to get ahead of myself in terms of talking about MTSS, but you're going to see that reflected in a couple different areas, because there's kind of two different pathways where we're looking at truly incorporating that. Clarity of roles and responsibilities. We are right now really revisiting all of our job descriptions. I'm seeing that there's some duplication of effort, and there are instances where there are job duties or responsibilities that fall in departments which it should not lie in, and it's impacting how efficient and how effective we are at the day-to-day work. This is the work that we will be embarking on throughout the year. So I'm giving you a snapshot based on these goals in terms of where we intend on going and benchmarking progress as we move throughout the year. These are not things that have currently happened, but it's going to be the work moving forward. Continuous monitoring, not just for our central office folk, not just for our principals, but we know that we have to create some data portals where our parents have easy access to being able to have a one-stop shop where they can actually get a snapshot of where their child is in terms of their academic profile. And I think that's extremely important. We know, and I've been very transparent, that we are not where we need to be around our curriculum development, but we have a very clear plan on the direction that we are going and what that cycle entails. We have been slow rolling right now, rolling out a new elementary report card for the simple fact that there's foundational pieces that we need in place before we can roll out a report card aligned to standards which have not been clearly developed nor articulated. So that is going to be the work that we are embarking on. And just the spirit of transparency, I just want to be forthright that we are not where we need to be. And right now, we do not want to continue with what could be perceived as a push-down model. And we are really trying to get ownership and buy-in from all stakeholders, especially at our teacher level, so that they have a voice in the process. And we are very receptive to their feedback in terms of what we are doing well in and what we need improvement in and where our gaps lie. When we look at the data governance framework, it's important that we're leveraging our resources. Where are we getting the bang for the buck? Or where do we need to phase particular resources out that aren't really being utilized to the degree in which they should? Accountability measures. That is something that we're creating throughout this governance framework where everyone has a clear understanding of what the standard or expectation is as it relates to our instructional framework, which is another piece that we are developing as well. There's a shift in terms of doing the work. We're going to be shifting in terms of what planning looks like. We're going to be shifting in terms of what doing walkthroughs look like. How do we triangulate the work where there's a direct correlation with everything that we're doing and it makes sense, all pointed towards how do we more effectively make instructional adjustments to make sure we are truly meeting the needs of all of our students. Professional development and data literacy is a major piece. Just through Mrs. Savage's meeting today, she got a lot of insight around PD. What's working, what's not, what changes we need to make. How do we differentiate that so that teachers actually have a voice in identifying what they really need to be better practitioners of delivering pedagogy. Root cause analysis is a cycle that we need to be more fluid and start earlier. I'm looking forward to us really developing what our protocol is going to look like as we get into the spring and look at really developing our school improvement plans for the following year. That's something that we started last year and that we want to continue to build upon. identifying what are our barriers or things that are hindering us from meeting our desired results. And subsequently, based on those root causes analysis, we'll be making instructional adjustments. Data is fluid, and it is always giving you information which informs what our current practices should be. In order to improve student outcomes, we have to have data-driven instruction. That's a non-negotiable. We are working right now with establishing protocols where adults are reviewing data and really being reflective around what do we need to do differently to make sure that we are meeting our diverse student subgroup. Increased teacher capacity is something that we even touched upon today. We currently, and I'm just being honest here as superintendent with this board, at central office do not have the capacity to meet all of the need that we currently have. So subsequently, we have to start identifying our teacher leaders within our respective schools that could come alongside because they are experts in particular areas that could benefit the whole. We have to build their capacity. When we think about our professional learning communities, part of a high-functioning professional learning community is having teachers that are leading those PLCs, having teachers that are leading professional development workshops or opportunities for the staff as a whole. That should not just be left to central office to facilitate. So I'm excited in terms of what that's going to look like and us charting that progress and highlighting those teachers as we do the work. The systemic accountability is something that you've heard me reference already. It's new. It's change. Right now, we're still grappling with that, and I'll be honest. There, in every schoolhouse, you could potentially see the same thing being done a little different. That's what we have to move where there's concurrence throughout all schools with some of the protocols that should be followed. When we look at subgoal 2B, aligning instructional support efforts for enhanced collaboration, it's those joint meetings that I was referencing. It's shared decision making where all stakeholders have a voice at the table. It's us having instructional framework which is clear and understood by all. It's clear goals for articulation. It's cross-school collaboration. We're doing that through our vertical and horizontal sessions right now with teachers. It's so interesting to have teachers work outside of their immediate schoolhouse and come together as a district in terms of sharing best practices that they're using. And we're starting to leverage that type of work. That's a specialized skill development that I'm hoping that at some point we will have exemplars that we will be able to share with you as a board with how we see evidence of that work being transferred to student outcomes. Moving on, consistent teacher practices and pedagogy. You know, we can just take something as simple as having mastery objectives posted in every classroom. That's not a current practice right now. No judgment. It's just a reality. But students should know what the expectations for new learning is for them each and every day. And that is something that as a district we have to work towards, and teachers have to be clear on what that looks like. But we have to clearly model that and articulate that. That starts here at central office, through our meetings with principals, through their meetings with instructional leadership teams, to each and every teacher's classroom, which this then transfers to the individual child. you can go on to 2B. 2B, well, this is continued improved instructional coherence, effective teacher collaboration, consistent pedagogical practices, and just a culture of continuous improvement. We're talking about changing mindsets. We heard in some of our conferences, workshops, that we saw the importance of a growth mindset. We heard a lot about the heart, having a heart for students. These are all things which will define us as a district. We have a mission and vision which speaks to equity, which speaks to being very intentional with reaching every child. But as adults within the district, we're the ones that have to embrace that work. And in terms of the frameworks, in terms of the coherence, in terms of the collaboration, these are all things that we want to share. I know that there were a couple questions with MTSS in terms of why does that sit in two places within the board or within my goals. So you have what we've established as a district-wide framework where there's instructional component to MTSS and how that's being used. And then there's actual like a climate or culture component. And that's why I didn't just put MTSS under one goal, because even though it is MTSS, there's two parallel tracks that we're going to be traveling at the same time. It's very interesting. I already see the growth from last year to this year, where we had a select group that was potentially heading the MTSS work. And there's a shift now that MTSS work has to be owned by each individual teacher, guidance counselor, multiple stakeholders in the building. That does not just sit with one isolated group of individuals. When we're looking at climate and culture, we're really making sure that PBIS is a strong part of what we're doing. We're sending a lot of teachers out for training as we're trying to move PBIS to the next tier throughout our schoolhouses. The restorative practices are something that we're going to be embarking on. We know that just suspension alone is not going to correct the behavior. Subsequently, we have to look at how do we get to the root cause of the behavior and then figure out through a relational approach how we have a different result in terms of students maybe just taking that one little pause to process prior to just having a gut reaction in terms of a poor choice potentially that they're looking at making. If we want to go to establishing high-functioning collaborative stipend PBIS teams in every school, this is something that Mrs. Savage has really taken the lead on in terms of not just looking at extracurricular, extra duty, but we had to look at where we have monies allocated and had to realign those unique positions to the pillars in our strategic plan. We recognize that some of the stipends that we had for individuals were actually aligned to our old strategic plan and not to our current strategic plan. So that is a shift that we have made. And then working alongside with Mrs. King and Dr. Catchabone and others, we're really going to make our approach to PBIS more robust, but we're building capacity of teacher leaders to really run that work alongside of the principal. So look forward to that. You always have Myers coming and boasting about PBIS. I'm looking forward to other schools really coming to the forefront by the end of the year and showcasing some of their accomplishments as we move through this process. and I'm skipping because I've hit some of this already when we look at goal 3A. But if we go to 3B, I want to end there in terms of the goals, and that's speaking to developing and communicating clear expectations for staff, interactions, and creating a welcoming environment. I'll speak to that without even the notes. I'm going to use Miss Francis, who's probably watching this right now, who is our greeter here in our admin building. She exemplifies what setting an experience for any community member should look like coming into this building. She's always welcoming. She's always accommodated. She always makes sure that that little area out there is neat in appearance and welcoming for everyone coming through the door. I'm glad that we have someone like that that's modeling that in terms of being the first point of contact. That's something that we want to see in every one of our departments. That's something we want to see in every one of our schools. I know that currently across the board, that is not always our lived experience for community members coming in. But I'll be honest, we are doing it right more often than not. But it's those few times that we're not hitting that mark that I don't even want to be prevalent. So it starts with me as superintendent. That's why I want to make all of this public, because I don't want anyone to have to leave anything to chance in terms of ever being able to say that our standards, our expectations were not clearly communicated. And this is an opportunity through the goals to really show the community as a whole what you as a board are holding me accountable for. I do not do it in isolation. Every adult in this building helps me champion those goals. It's a collective effort which really permeates throughout the district as a whole. So thank you for the opportunity. It's 12 pages. I did not want to do that deep dive, but that's why I'm going to make it public, where you as a board, I know you love to unpack things, and others can unpack in more detail as well. So, Madam Chair, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Scriven. And just two notes. One is that the approval of your goals, superintendent goals, are on the agenda for tonight. And also to just iterate the thoughtfulness and intentionality that went into this goal, establishing the goals and the priorities. That ensures that even as a board, we're all aligned and really clear about what the priorities are, and making sure that we are not, that in that alignment, that's where the focus is, and that it prevents us from going off track and losing sight of what our priorities are to move the needle for our students in the district. So, thank you. We will move to committee reports. Mr. Schultz will provide the Financial Affairs update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Financial Affairs Committee met in the Administration Building and via Zoom on October 1st. We covered our standard agenda items of an update on our financial statements. It's still quite early in the year. There are various differences between this time this year and this time last year, but most of those are related to just cash flow, when a check was written by a mortgage company, etc. So everything is looking right on track. We also had a brief overview of the upcoming Act 1 index that Cheltenham, it's actually quite complicated, but there's essentially a ratio that reflects our economic realities and prosperity levels in Cheltenham, and we fell at a point last year which will likely result in an adjusted Act 1 index. And all that means is technically the district could raise taxes at a rate higher than the statewide Act 1 index. It's not anticipated that we would come anywhere close to those numbers for anyone listening and concerned. And then finally, we had an overview of the long-range facilities planning study, specifically related to the athletics facilities. And I think the key highlight from that is that construction is anticipated to begin in this spring and will extend into next fall. But the goal is really going to be to have the primary field itself usable in the fall, even though some of the other facilities, related facilities like bathrooms, things that involve plumbing, might last a little longer, but at least our athletes would be able to start using the fields in the fall. That's the goal. And that concludes my report. There will be our next Financial Affairs Committee meeting will be November 14th. It's shifted 1 week forward because Election Day. Sorry, 12th. It's shifted 1 week forward because Election Day is the 5th. Please make sure to have a plan to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Ms. Mulhern will provide the Educational Affairs update.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The Educational Affairs Committee met for the first time this academic year on Tuesday, September 17th in person and via Zoom. The June meeting minutes were unanimously approved. We had 4 agenda items as follows. We had guests from the Cheltenham Education Foundation, their president, Dr. Pam Hart, and longtime member Betsy Conway, and they shared how the foundation supports the school district through the money that they raise through a variety of ways, and they use it towards scholarships for graduating seniors and grants for educators. Next, Ms. Savage reviewed the 2024-25 Educational Affairs Committee meeting topics by month. The meeting agendas and the topics are aligned with board policy, compliance requirements for PDE, and the cadence of the school year. So if you are looking to come to some Educational Affairs Committee meetings, please do look at that schedule so that you know which ones you'd like to come join us for. We then received an update on the district's 7 strategic plan pillars, including work that was completed in the last academic year, and a look forward to this year's next steps. The last agenda item was a review of our federal programs, Title I, II, III, and IV. Dr. Pimentel shared how title funding is used and tracked within the district. The next Educational Affairs Committee meeting is next Tuesday, October 19th at 7 p.m. We will meet in person and via Zoom. Our topics will be a review of the draft of the 2025 through 2027 academic calendars, and we will be joined by the elementary school principals for data presentations and continuous school improvement plans. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Mulhern. Eastern Center for Arts and Technology, Mr. Burdell Williams will provide the update.
Yep, thank you, Madam President. The Eastern Center for Arts and Technology met on Wednesday, September 11th via Zoom. As customary at the Eastern JOC meetings, the first item for review by the JOC was the resolution to approve the September Student of the Month, who was at that time approved to be Kendra Hearn, Lower Moreland High School senior, who was awarded as the September Student of the Month, recognized for her outstanding work in Eastern's Protective Services Program. Just a few tidbits about Kendra. At Eastern, Kendra actively volunteers for events to promote all of the programming that she is a part of. She speaks with 10th graders at the high school regarding the Career Expo presentation at Eastern to try to drive interest in the program, as well as helps to showcase the equipment used in her program during Eastern's open house. As a junior, her instructor selected her to attend the Career and Technical Student Organization Leadership Conference in the Poconos, an experience that she personally credits with helping her to come out of her, let's just call it social shell. Also, as a junior, Kendra competed locally in the Skills USA Action Skills Competition, where she showcased her ability to quickly put on her firefighter suit and apparatus correctly. Outside of school, Kendra channels her energy and creativity into her job as a barista at a local coffee shop in Huntington Valley. She also participates in the Second Alarmers Association and the Rescue Squad EMT course, where she will proudly be completing that program sometime soon in October. She hopes to immediately begin an internship with the Second Alarmers this school year, as is, again, very traditional for a lot of the high-achieving students in the Protective Services Program to try to find themselves an internship somewhere in the area where they can begin to grow and expand on their experience at Eastern. Kendra has several plans for her future. She's currently deciding on a military branch, and is following that military service. She does want to attend college and study criminology. She's excited to get into the State Police Academy as well, focused on becoming a state trooper and moving up the ranks and supporting an officer slash administrative role at some point in her career. There were two other items that are of importance for this board. First, in the facility space, every year, I guess for the last 5 years now, the Joint Operating Committee has approved some aspect of renovations to Eastern. There was, the new robotics lab. There were upgrades to welding previously. There were upgrades in the automotive areas, and the new construction for the exercise science lab over the last number of years, in addition to other structural improvements, not very much different from what we're doing in our own district to try to improve our buildings. So the Joint Operating Committee approved Phase 5 renovations and plans that were provided by Breslin Ridyard Federo, who had bid out the project. Just a summary of the culinary program renovations really are going to meet these particular goals as outlined. One, create a teaching kitchen for level 1 students by installing ranges at each station appropriate, including the appropriate sinks. Enlarge the kitchen. The kitchen is actually very small, and there's a lot of what you would see as like air traffic control going on whenever there's work going on. There's literally kids flying all over the place, so this space would be very helpful as presented to the JOC. Increase the capacity by 8 seats. The board has heard me speak previously about Eastern being at above 90% capacity overall, but that there are very many programs that are weightlifting, and culinary 1 and 2 are programs that consistently have wait lists. So the addition of 8 seats, even though that sounds like a very small number, would grow the capacity of the culinary program by about 15%. So that enables 8 more children to explore an educational experience at Eastern that they would not otherwise have. Fourth, they would increase the visibility while in the kitchen, increase the supervision of students by moving the dry storage to a different location and literally opening up the kitchen more like what we've seen on some of our television cooking shows where everything is visible, as well as add to new equipment, which is very outdated, and last but certainly not least, increase the safety by upgrading the exhaust hood. The only other item for immediate consideration just by the board from an informational perspective was the approval of 2 students for veterinary science student internships. So as again, Eastern is not just providing an in-school experience every day for children. They're also looking for opportunities to try to support the children, whether it's through an internship or other type of volunteer experience. And 2 students were approved by the Joint Operating Committee for veterinary science weekend interns to provide on-care site for the animals that are kept at Eastern in their veterinary science wing. Again, very cool weekend job for a high school kid, especially one who's really interested in veterinary science. That concludes the formative part of my report. The Eastern Center for Arts and Technology will be meeting tomorrow, August 9th at 8 p.m. via Zoom. The link to that Zoom is found online at Eastern's website, eastech.org. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
October 9th.
October 9th, tomorrow. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Rodell Williams. Ms. Lohman will provide the MCIU update.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The Montgomery County Intermediate Board met on Wednesday, September 25th at 6:45 p.m. in person at the MCIU's main offices in Norristown and also over Zoom. Prior to the public meeting, an executive session was held to discuss personnel matters. The meeting began with a program highlight provided by the Director of Head Start and the Assistant Director of Head Start at the MCIU. They provided the board with an overview of the IU's federally funded Head Start program. They emphasized that children must be at least 3 years old and not eligible for kindergarten in order to be eligible to participate. The IU prioritizes serving children from the most vulnerable families first in this program, specifically families experiencing homelessness. They said they have a very diverse group of families and children they serve. Many families speak Spanish as their first language, and 32% of these young children already have diagnosed disabilities. They look to maximize the federal funding that they receive from the Head Start program to serve as many children as possible. Dr. Speaker, who's the MCIU's executive director, then highlighted several events and programs that are happening at the MCIU. In particular, the MCIU Discovery Center is fully functional at this point, and the building dedication will take place on Wednesday, October 16th. The Discovery Center is a new state-of-the-art educational facility located in Lansdale. The new center will host early childhood programming, including Head Start, pre-K counts, and early intervention, while also offering career development opportunities for school-age students with diverse needs. The couple of other highlights, the board improved many different consultant agreements and contractual arrangements. One that I just wanted to mention was the PHEA, PA Mental Health Education Learning Program, that the IU is being contracted to provide some support for. It's a state-funded program which encourages students to complete internships in school-based mental health fields in Pennsylvania and obtain their employment and certifications in a Pennsylvania local educational agency. The Office of Innovation and Strategic Partnerships highlighted several of its programs, a couple of which I've sent around to board members, and one that I already mentioned. The first one, though, is a new program that the MCIU is creating with Children First, a local advocacy group. It's called Voices for Education, and it is for 9th to 12th graders to get them involved in education policy making and education advocacy. The IU is planning 5 events this year, 1 per month during the school day, and the live events will be held at the IU's office in Norristown. They are encouraging districts to get their students to apply. So if you want any more information about that, I pushed out a flyer, but I can also get folks in contact with the person at the IU who is spearheading that program. The other program is Find Your Grind, which I had mentioned before, but they mentioned again because I think they're trying to encourage their school districts to look into what this program has to offer. Since the IU contracts with Find Your Grind, the cost to the district is much, much lower. Find Your Grind delivers future-ready learning experiences that empower administrators and educators to support students in navigating the future of work and develop the skills and confidence to thrive in a rapidly changing world. The other thing that Cheltenham got a shout out for was that Cheltenham is engaging sort of in the second phase of a paraprofessional pathway for an associate's degree from the Montgomery County Community College in conjunction with the IU. Cheltenham is actually the IU's sole partner at the moment in this initiative. The board approved several other professional development contracts with school districts in Montgomery County and also public schools and non-public schools. One of those contracts involved, the other thing that I want to mention was the IU board approved an affiliation agreement that the IU is going to have with James Madison University in Virginia to provide educational experience to speech language pathologist students in a practicum setting. This matters because the IU has been in dire need of speech language pathologists for its early intervention program in particular, also for the older students it serves, and they're hoping that this will be a way to sort of grow some homegrown speech language pathologists. So they're working on that. There were a number of other contracts, technology agreements approved. The MCIU's next board meeting will be on Wednesday, November 20th at 6:45 p.m. in Norristown and over Zoom. And this ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Lohman. Ms. Blistein will provide the facilities update.
Thank you, Madam President. The October Facilities Committee meeting was held on October 1st, 2024, here at the Administration Building and on Zoom. The following agenda items were discussed. At Myers, an outdoor bench was replaced and a potential issue was uncovered during a preventative maintenance visit. Water bottle refilling stations were installed throughout the building. At the high school, a new water bottle filling station was installed. Also at the high school, Mr. Cochran has been working to replace the motors on exhaust fans, which remove stale and stagnant air, thus improving overall building air quality. Cedarbrook has received new recycling receptacles. One community member requested that the football field be surveyed for divots or uneven spots before the next game. The field continues to be in use. Concerns were expressed about safety due to the numbers of attendees at football games. Ticket sales will be limited to 900, our capacity moving forward. There are no items on the consent agenda for approval. The full presentation for the October 1st meeting may be found on the district's website homepage by clicking on the school board, then committees, facilities, then drop down 24-25 for this year's presentations. Next month's hybrid meeting will be held on November 12th, shifted 1 week due to Election Day, here at the Administration Building and on Zoom beginning at 7 p.m. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Blistein. Ms. Mulhern will provide the liaison group update.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The liaison group met on September 16th at 8 a.m. Both the school district and the township shared updates with each other. For the school district, this included facilities updates on our stadium project and the timeline for our school restructuring, and an update on our the beginnings of our budget process for next school year. We shared the positive new school year opening that we just had in August, and an update on the success so far of the Empowerment Center in Cheltenham at the Modulars. We also shared at that point that, as Ms. Blitzstein just mentioned, that home football games are now occurring. The township shared updates regarding traffic calming measures that will be added to all of our elementary schools. Depending on the roads that are around the schools, it could be a combination of speed cushions, elevated crosswalks, and all of those schools will receive some kind of LED lit speed sign. Road detours are occurring on Church Road and then throughout the township for milling and paving projects. There was some discussion of just putting it on the radar of potential impacts on future enrollments with new housing developments that may be occurring in the future. And lastly, the township updated us on their facilities projects, including continued public input on the Lamont Community Center project and the Melrose project with possible community center there. The old business that we discussed was regarding the Elkins estate and the TIF agreement. We are in year 4 of that agreement. And there were a few announcements regarding various events in the township that have now all passed since the time of them, either in the last 2 weeks. But there is a new Parks and Rec team at the township, and they are working on adding some robust programming, including a fall festival in a few weeks. There is a police test for new staff on October the 12th. And Mr. Will Williams shared on our end just the announcement that Eastern Center for Arts and Technology continues to be close to capacity and looking for ways to address the wait list of students. And we will meet again. I do not know that we have a date set, but we will post it when we do. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Mulhern. Ms. Lohman will provide an update for policy.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. There was no policy committee meeting in September. The next policy committee meeting will be on October 22nd at 7 p.m. in room 102 here at the administration building in Oakland.
Thank you, Ms. Lohman. Ms. Epstein will provide an update for legislative. I'm sorry, Ms. Blitzstein. I'm like almost, I'm supposed to do that. There was no legislative update, and Mr. Epps is not, he's not present today, and we don't have a date for the next legislative meeting. Thank you. And next we will move to, this is kind of approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Public comment.
That's,
Point of order.
it's, we did it first. We did it when it's, yeah, it's out of,
Okay.
so what happened was the public comments were listed earlier in the agenda and would, yeah. And so it shouldn't be here, and then it'll be after we finish the consent agenda. Okay? All right, so, do I have a second for the minutes? Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Aye, and the minutes are approved. So next we will go to the approval of the superintendent's 2024 and 2025 goals. So, Ed, did we do this by individual vote or we just do it? Okay, we do a voice vote. Okay. Are there any comments before we go to vote on the goals? I'm sorry. Can I have a motion?
So
to-
moved.
Second.
Okay. Are there any comments? Got a little bit of-
Just a brief comment. I just wanted to thank Dr. Scriven and also the fellow members of the Goals Committee who spent a little bit of extra above and beyond time. Ms. Mulhern and Ms. Lohman, and also Ms. Henry, who is kind of an ex officio member, and put a lot of great input as well. So this was a lot of work and discussion, and I really, as everyone just heard, it's a very robust document and really reflects the leadership priorities that Dr. Scriven brought to us. And so very thankful that we have the administrator and administrative team that we do to lead to such meaningful goals.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. All right, now we will take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The goals are approved. And next we will move to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Blissing, second. Before we go to a voice vote, are there any comments? Dr. Whiting?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to point out that this month we are approving 18 staff and administrators for professional development opportunities ranging from leadership to equity, particularly focused on students with disabilities and students who are English language learners. I also want to highlight the commitment of those teachers and staff and our district to supporting the ongoing professional development of our teachers and staff. And also want to point out that they align directly with our some of our strategic pillars, including teaching and learning, social, emotional, mental well-being, and diversity, equity, belonging, and inclusion. And I just want to wish the best to those administrators and teachers who are doing that, and thank them for their ongoing commitment to their professional development.
Thank you, Dr. Whiting. Any other comments? Ms. Lohman?
Thank you, Ms. Henry. I second what Dr. Whiting says. Actually, I noticed that the long and impressive list of folks who are going to be engaging in some professional development. I also just wanted to highlight, I'm glad to see that we're going to be, we have for approval an MOU with Philadelphia Young Playwrights for their services. I'm glad to see, I'm really, really happy to see that we're back partnering with them. It's such an amazing program, Our students get so much out of it. It's just an incredible opportunity. So thank you for that. And I also just wanted to congratulate the list of people who are receiving tenure. It's exciting.
Thank you, Ms. Loman. Any other comments? Ms. Blistine?
I just wanted to acknowledge our volunteers who are listed there and give a little reminder to anyone who might want to chaperone a trip coming up, any kind of special events, that they should get moving on those volunteer sort of application packets soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blistine. Any other comments before we move to voice vote? All right, we will move to our voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say
Aye.
nay. And the motion carries. Next, we will have public comments on non-agenda items. If there's anyone in the community online, we have no one present that has comments. You can unmute yourself on Zoom or email us as listed on the agenda. All right, none? Okay, thank you. There were no responses to public, to any questions listed. Our future meetings are listed on the agenda, with the exception, these will be posted in addition to the meetings that are listed there. And just iterating, November 12th is the Financial Affairs meeting. November 19th is the next, and Facilities and Financial Affairs meeting. November 19th is the next legislative meeting. November 26th will be the next Ed Affairs meeting, and that is due to the election, which is being held on November 5th. All right, I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Oh,
So moved.
I should have said I will ask for a motion to adjourn. So Mr. Whiting was first and Ms. Blistine
Second.
was second. All in favor say aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned.